This is the Nasserman Hockey Podcast with James Nichols and John Zella. Okay, and welcome back to another episode of the Nasserman Hockey Podcast. James Nichols, and with me as always is John Zella. Before we get to On the Island and introduce our guest, we're proud to be supported by DraftKings. Football's right around the corner. Get in on the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. And with the NFL returning, DraftKings is giving new customers $200 in free bets instantly when you bet $1 or more on any football game. Listen up because you don't want to miss this. Head to the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and place a bet on $1 or more on any Week 1 game to receive $200 in free bets instantly. If Sportsbook is not yet available in your state, DraftKings still has huge cash prizes up for grabs all season long with their daily fantasy contests. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code THPN to receive $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any football game. And get a free shot at $1 million in top prizes with your free deposit. That's promo code THPN for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only as well. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. And today's guest, we welcome Eyes on Isles columnist and prospect writer, Mitch Anderson. What's up, Mitch?
Not a whole lot. I'm feeling old. My foot hurts from plantar fasciitis. Alexis and Fire has been around for 2 decades. There's gray in my beard, although very, very slightly. John's got a nice majestic one going, and I'm 37, and I still got patches on both sides of my face.
Yeah, that's why we're sponsored by Manscaped, which we'll get to later.
We'll get to that later. Somehow your beard always comes up, and I gotta say,
I'll tell you,
because I'm also patchy. I don't got much on my face either.
I'll tell you what, complete strangers, it will be the first thing they say. I'll get introduced to somebody. Hey, this is John. Oh, nice to meet you. Really nice beard. Or just people will tap me on the shoulder and ask me what I do. Don't always love that.
Do you chop trees for a living, bro?
I do. Yeah, I'm wearing a flannel and my trucker Islander hat. And I just bought. Oh my God! Never mind. I'm not gonna say. I'll get roasted for that. But yeah, I'm a hipster. I get it. Here we are.
Mitch, I wanted to ask right before we get to some of the Islanders news and stuff like that. You're based out of Toronto. I'm sorry, Ottawa, correct?
Ottawa. Thank you very much.
How did that go about?
I have to spit on the ground, Toronto.
Tell me how are you an Ottawa native?
Yep, born and raised in
But
Ottawa.
You're an Islander fan.
Yes.
Okay, walk us through that.
It's weird, I know, but as you all know, Denny Potvin played for the Islanders. Yep. Denny Potvin is from here. And not only just from Ottawa, like Ottawa's a pretty big city. Only 1 million people. It's not that big, but still, for Canada, it's big. But he's from this specific area of Ottawa called Vanier, which is a French community. That's where I'm from. Right down our main street. It's not real. I can make it sound like we're some like small little town, but we're right outside of downtown. There's downtown, and then immediately us.
Where the rink is? It where the rink is?
Not even close. The rink is so far out of town. It's ridiculous.
I've been to an Islander Ottawa game, and it's way. That was the only time I had to use my car, but yeah, it's way out there.
It is way out west, insanely far out west. But we're right downtown, and on our main street, it's called Montreal Road, because if you drive straight and keep going, you'll end up in Montreal. There's a mural of Denny and Jean Potvin in their Islanders jerseys and Ottawa 67s jerseys, because they both played here. And so growing up, you're like, hey, what the heck is that? I'm in on that's not Montreal, it's not Toronto, and it's not Ottawa. I guess they only showed up in 93 anyway. So like you're going, all right, that is something that I can cheer for that no one else around here is doing. And it just stuck. I could never shake it. We also kind of have, my parents and my grandmother believes that we have Potvin ties. We do, like my grandmother is a Potvin, but not directly related to him at all.
That's close enough.
That's all that matters in French communities. Like, oh, they're Potvin, done. You're all family, apparently.
That's great. All right. Well, as you guys saw, or most of you might have saw already, The Athletic put out an Islanders prospects ranking And the first thing that came to both John and my mind was, well, who knows Islanders prospects better than Mitch? And I'm a prospect guy myself, but I'll admit you definitely have it down packed way more than I do. And if you haven't already checked out Mitch's Deckhands on YouTube, right? That's what it's called, Deckhands?
That's right.
Deckhands on YouTube. Talks all about Islanders prospects. Definitely check it out because that'll just support the fact that he knows what he's talking about. And that's why we brought him on today. And the first thing I wanted to ask you about was the top five. There was 5 prospects that were ranked, which, by the way, the Islanders were ranked 27th in the league. Shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, as you stated on Twitter, Mitch. But the top 5 prospects for the Islanders, Wahlstrom and Dobson were both named because the criteria was that they had to be 22 or under. And you know, Wahlstrom and Dobson are. Were you surprised that Ratu was higher than Wahlstrom?
Yes. That surprised me. That he was number 2 out of 5, that surprised me. It's not to say that Ratu isn't a good player, but to be that high on the ranking after he fell to 52 overall, which what should have been first overall at one point and maybe even a top 10 guy, and then 52, and you're saying he's the second best prospect in our pool. That
Right.
A, looks bad for us, or B, looks really good for Ratu, and I choose to sit on the second one.
Does that mean that there's a higher upside for Ratu than like Wahlstrom is showing what he is, and there's only so much better? He could be more consistent, which some people would equate to being better, but is Ratu's upside just far, like, is he more of a first line winger? Is he a winger? I don't know too much.
No,
center.
he's a center.
He's a center.
And
So
I
is
think-
he's like a first, and they're usually rated a little bit higher. And so that kind of does it too. But is he projected to be better than Wahlstrom will eventually be? And is it easier to say that at this point because Wahlstrom's kind of shown what he's got?
I think, James, you tweeted that when the article came out, you're going like, guys, centers are usually valued more than wingers.
Yes.
And that's absolutely fact. And when you look at the tiers that Proman is using, he said middle of the lineup player for both of those guys.
Yeah.
And you're saying, okay, well, if the deployment is the same, the only difference is the position. And at that point, center over winger, it's why he's 2 over 3 in my books. But to what you were saying, John, is can Ratu have a better game than Wahlstrom? I don't know about that. I sure hope so. But to say he's already a second line center to me is just, that's money in the bank, right? You're drafting a second line center in the second round, mid-second round, I'll take it all day, every day.
Right. I mean, look at Brock Nelson. You got him 30th overall in the first round of the draft in I believe it was 2010.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That feels right.
Yeah. So it's just interesting that he's already, and then he, meaning Corey Pronman, is already pegging Ratu as a second line center for the Islanders. Whereas he's saying Wahlstrom is a middle 6 winger. Now, let me ask you something. Do you agree with that analysis on Wahlstrom? Do you think that he's, his ceiling is a middle 6 winger, or does he have the potential to play top line minutes? Interestingly enough, a couple weeks ago, I wrote an article saying he deserved it to play top 6 minutes and maybe on the first line with Barzal, as I like to look at analytics, and they're a little closer to Barzal's than they are to Peugeot's. Do you think that he's capped out as a middle 6 guy, or does he have that potential to be on the first line?
He's got to do some things to get there.
Okay.
And the one big flaw with Oliver Wahlstrom was his systems game.
Right.
The kid worked purely on instinct. Didn't know where to go, what to do in terms of the team game, and that don't fly in a Barry Trotz system.
Sure.
Or in a Barry Trotz coach team, which is why he went back to not juniors, but the AHL that year. Worked on it with Brent Thompson. You see the start of the year in the AHL does not go well. And by that, I mean, like, the points aren't coming, but he doesn't care. Nor does Thompson. They don't care because that's not what he's there to do. He's there to learn how to play the team game. He still has to do that. That's what's going to stop him from getting to be a top line player. Now, with that being said, it doesn't mean that I don't think he should be playing top line minutes. I think he could, but it's a different situation, right? Like, the ceiling here is, if everyone has, or how do I say this? It's just the only reason he's going to be playing top line right wing minutes for the Islanders is because there's no one better than him.
Right.
And so that's why we can go like,
or there's not a veteran, and I think that's in a Barry Trotz Islanders system and team game. When you had a Travis Zajac that was a proven veteran, especially in the playoffs, and a Kyle Palmieri, so on and so forth. it's real. You have to be doing something pretty special, unless you're putting up 2 goals a game and you're like invaluable, which would be incredible pace for an Islanders forward at this point. I don't think it's possible simply on that. Like, and that's why I said, and Jay, we've had that conversation.
Yeah.
I don't think it happens right away. I think there's an opportunity if he really lights up the third line, and maybe at the same time Palmieri struggles. We're making some assumptions that Palmieri's pegged for the first line, but without knowing anything else, that's, I think, is pretty safe. So I think that's where I said I don't think right away. And if he would have been playing throughout the playoffs last year. If he played throughout the playoffs last year and he really made some huge steps and he got brought back in, like, all right, he's healthy, go back in. Totally different conversation. But he was taken out and that was it.
Yeah, I think the other thing to think about too with Wahlstrom is he's only going to be 21. So he's got plenty of time to still grow, and the fact that he's already made a pretty decent impact on the third line, playing an average of 12 and a half minutes a night with JG Peugeot and second unit power play time. To me, that says he's got the ability to be up there, but much like you said, Mitch, he's got some things to work on in regards to his trots game. He's got to play that 200-foot game maybe a little bit better. But you know, off seasons do wonders for guys like Wahlstrom. He might have picked it up in this off season, and you know, he can come into camp and win that spot. I in the article that I had wrote a couple weeks ago, I had said it's likely to go to Palmieri, but there's no reason that Wahlstrom can't come in and win that spot. You foresee that as a possibility?
Yeah, for sure. And like Oliver Wahlstrom said all the right things. He just needs to start backing it up with action. And that's not to say he's not trying, right? Like you mentioned, he's 21.
Yeah.
He's so young.
So young.
He said, like, at the beginning of the season, like, I'm falling in love with my game, even though he wasn't putting up points, right? That is music to Barry Trotz's ears.
Yeah.
And so, like, he's bought in, and from there, and like at Barry Trotz system, that always happens. You buy in, the points will come, and they did. So I can see him eventually working his way into that role. But like you said, he's going to have to, and what John mentioned as well, he's going to have one heck of a training camp if he's going to have that happen.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it's Palmieri's to lose, and Wahlstrom's going to have like training camp of the ages for that to be his position come out of camp.
Yeah. And even with Palmieri on that first line, Jay, I've said this before, and maybe Lee, Barzal, and Palmieri, which we have not seen, that's a pretty good first line for the Islanders. Maybe the best we've seen
in a while.
In a decade.
Yeah.
I think, you know, like the three of them together, you know, the possibility of points there, 2 20-goal scorers on the first line. We just like really have not seen that in a long time. I know like Oposo and Tavares and Guy, pretty much Parento, Molson, Brad Boys, you know, on and on. You know, but we say all the time, the Islanders have 3 second lines and a fourth line.
Yeah.
So,
which is a third line, in my opinion.
But right. I mean, with their effectiveness, you know, and we'll get to like Cizikas later and all that. But I think it almost doesn't matter. He can be just as effective. And if it's really working, do you break a line like that up? I don't think it matters if he gets first line minutes. I think he's going to get power play time. You think he's going to play well on a line with Peugeot and whomever, presumably Parise. If it's working, it's working. I don't know that something's got to be not working on both lines for them to make that swap.
Yeah.
So the way that it starts, you know, you start like you mean to continue. I have a feeling that's the way Trotz is going to
go. So speaking of scoring wingers, wanted to talk about another prospect who's seemingly shot his way up through the ranks in William Dufour. Give us the rundown on William Dufour, because I see his name popping up more and more. Mostly thanks to you, but now I've done my own research as well, and I just see he's lighting the lamp, and doesn't matter where he's playing or who he's playing for, he continues to do it. Give us the rundown on William Dufour.
Big, strong, scoring winger, and it's not that he's scoring because he's not Eric Lindros 2.0, right? Like the big thing with Eric Lindros coming up is that he was so big and so strong that he would just kind of like bulldoze his way through everyone. Like they'd be literally hanging off of him and he would still score. That's not really Dufour's game. Dufour's out there, you know, making finesse plays. There's this one goal from last year that he scored. he just wheeled through everyone, went from like coast to coast. And I asked him about it. It's like, Liam, well, why did you do that? How did that work? And he ran me through the whole play. It's like, well, we were on a delayed penalty. And so I saw an opening and I took it. I wouldn't have tried that at any other point. But because the opening was there and the delayed penalty, like worst case scenario, they strip the puck from me and the play's dead. I don't have to worry about it going back. It's just that level of knowledge of a hockey IQ to be like, yeah, I know where I am and I know what I'm doing. And it's not just instinct. So that all those things factored. And then his shot. The kid can shoot from anywhere and hard and accurate, whether it's a wrist or a slap shot. The kid can score. I talked to his GM and the reason, see, he's in a new team now, right? He's playing for the St. John Sea Dogs.
Yes.
And the reason they picked him up is because they feel he could be a 40 goal scorer at that league.
Wow.
So like the kid can score and they think he's going to be massive for them this year. And so far, 1 game, 2 goals, 2 assists in the preseason.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I just keep seeing his name more and more. And, so I think he was projected by Promin, if I'm not mistaken, as a bottom 6 winger. Is that his ceiling?
I think so. Yeah. Like with all due respect to the QMJHL, like it's a high scoring league. Mm-hmm. And so you got to take that kind of production with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. So to see that the numbers, don't think like, he's going to be a 40 goal scorer at the NHL level. No, that's not necessarily the case. I would say that a bottom 6 winger, maybe a third line winger is probably what he'll be. Hopefully the upside goes up, but I would see him as a bottom 6 winger for sure.
So one of the questions I had about, his development, one of the things that actually hindered Ratu and brought his stock down was that once he got to the level where he started playing against men, his play style and everything didn't quite translate as well. And his numbers started to decrease, and that's ultimately what led to his draft stock falling. Dufour hasn't quite gotten to that level yet where he's playing against men. Is it possible that there's a similar regression for Dufour in that sense as well? I mean, obviously, when you get to a new league where you're playing against bigger, faster guys, there's going to be regression, but will it return to form once he, starts to feel the pace of the game at that level? Is there any concern that he might, regress and not be able to make it amongst men?
Not necessarily. Yes, I did not say like you mentioned that he's going to jump from the QMJHL to the AHL and be a 40 goal scorer there as well. There's going to be natural regression there. Mm-hmm. But for me, what is going to benefit him is that he's not relying on his physical game to get to where he is. Again, he's not bulldozing through people. He can play a physical game if he needs to, but that's not his thing. He's not, again, bulldozing through players to get to the goal. He's scoring off his skill and instinct. So those are things that can translate to different levels. Yeah, he's going to have to adapt for a little bit of it, but that's a natural learning curve for everyone. So I would fully expect him to be okay at the AHL level based off of what I've seen so far.
It's definitely a great development for the forward prospects in the Islander system, just because there's not really too many that you can get super excited about. Moving over to defensemen, Bolduc and Wild were listed under has a chance in quotes and below Robin Salo. Now, Robin Salo has been a defensive prospect that we've all been talking about since he started doing really well for Orebro overseas. Is Salo more clear cut to be an Islanders defenseman over Bolduc and Bodie Wild?
That is a good question because if it's today, you're asking me if today he can be at the NHL before those two guys, I would say so. Will he? No, I don't think so. We're talking about the Islanders who aren't going to be playing what would effectively be 2 rookies in the tops not the top 6, but there's in their 6 defensemen. I don't see that happening. I want it to happen. I want to see Robin Salo take that leap, but I don't think it's going to happen. To have him ranked over those 2, it makes sense. But the one thing that I found weird about that is in Promin's ranking, he gave Robin Salo a below average rank for his skating, which is kind of, I thought, from what I can see, Robin Salo's strength. Yeah, he's a smart player and he can play well and he does everything else pretty well, but he skates pretty darn well. He's not Nicoletti, but he's a
Right.
fine skater. I would have said average at worst. So that kind of surprised me a little bit. So I still think that he's a higher ceiling than both of them. And it surprised me that the only thing that was a knock really was the skating. So assuming
Wow.
his skating is fine, like man, the ceiling might be even higher than Brahman estimates.
Yeah, it was just interesting to me because, going back to development or training camp last season, it was publicly stated that both Bolduc and Wild gave Trotz something to think about, and they could have potentially made the roster. And now, you have Robin Salo in the mix, and suddenly he's the best defensive prospect of them all. Does that maybe say to you that maybe, one of or all three could possibly see an Islanders sweater, given injuries or something this season?
No, I
Okay.
don't think three, two max. The thing with Bodie Wild is he hasn't had a couple of good years through no fault of his own
Yeah.
necessarily, right? You've got injuries 2 years ago, and then COVID cutting down the AHL season for the Sound Tigers to 24 games. Not a great sample size, and the
Right.
Sound Tigers were not very good, to put it lightly. So like that doesn't help him necessarily either. To have three move up, no, but two of them perhaps. If worst case scenario, two guys get injured.
Interesting. Just because, like I said again, where those two guys stood with Barry Trotz last fall, let's say, last September, it's just super interesting to me to see that now Robin Salo has catapulted himself above those two names, just because they're both. And from what I heard, Bolduc is a, I don't want to say Pelech 2.0, but he's a Pelech light. Is that accurate?
I wouldn't say that his shutdown game is as strong as Pelech. This
Okay.
guy's kind of a two horse. He could do two things. His coach told me like he reminds him not reminds him, but is like a Hedman type, and that doesn't mean that he's going to factor to be a Hedman like player, but
Right.
the style of plays, and he can play both. He can shut down, but he could also lead the line. He's just what he called him an athlete, right? Like he's just able to do it all because he's strong. He could move the puck. He's got lungs for days. He just has all of that. So it's not like he's got that one defining characteristic where he's either a shutdown guy or an offensive guy. He can do it both.
So he's a well-rounded two-way defenseman.
Exactly.
That's definitely something that I had said that the Islanders need in their pipeline, because after who they have in their top six now, and that includes an Andy Green, it's looking pretty light as for who's going to come up next. But next thing I wanted to ask you is what's up with Simone Holmstrom, because two so-so seasons in the AHL. Is this another swing and miss in the first round?
Well, it certainly doesn't look good when the next pick taken immediately after him lights up the AHL this year. Right?
Yeah, not
See,
great.
Philip Tomasino put up
Yeah,
32 points in 29 games, I believe, this year.
yeah, he was very good.
So you're talking about what could be if you use I use NHLE to kind of like figure out what a player has done at their respective level, how that translates to the NHL. And Tomasino's like a 30-point NHLer, whereas Simon Holmstrom is a 9-point NHLer.
That's a Michael Dalcol territory.
Yeah, not great. Now, what's going on with him? When I spoke to Swedish coach, that's the U20 coach, the guy in charge for the World Junior Championship squad that Simon Holmstrom was on, he told me that Simon needs stability, and he has had none of that over the last 2 years.
Okay.
Right? Because you've got COVID interrupting
Sure.
both of those. And then last year, he goes to Sweden, plays a couple of games there with Vida Hassan and the Alvesons gone. And then he comes back, plays with the World Junior squad, and then goes to Bridgeport. It's just a lot of isipila, that we say in French, like here and there, just moving around. It's not stable. And he's young, right?
Yeah.
He came over as a 19-year-old, was the youngest professional hockey player in North America. And he had an okay year, and he kind of regressed this year. I expect him to bounce back this year with a better Bridgeport Islanders team.
Yeah, and that's, like you said with the COVID year, that's even something that I had said about Ratu's game too, right? Two uneasy years for everyone, especially players, from overseas coming to the, to North America, and whatever it should be. Players like Ratu, who are so young, are easily impacted by these situations that happen in the world. So, the fact that he slipped to 52 might be, something that bites everyone in the 51 teams that passed. Well, I shouldn't say 51. The other 30 teams or 31 teams now that passed up on Ratu and 51 selections. So hopefully, like you said, for both Ratu and Holmstrom, those COVID years were just holding them back a little bit. And once with a little bit of normalcy again, things will start to look up. Talk to me about the NHLE you just mentioned. I've seen that before. It's a way to project prospects, correct?
It's a way to translate what someone does at whatever league to the NHL. So
Okay.
if Simon Holmstrom puts up, let's say, 20 points in the SHL, what does that look like as an NHL at the NHL level?
Okay. That's interesting. And is there a formula for that?
There is. It's a lot of analysis went into it to figure out, okay, well, how do players going from that league directly to the NHL, how do they, like, what is their production like? And they've done all the math around it. I am not a math geek. We often say that on the Eyes on Us podcast, that math isn't my strong suit, even though I studied economics, which is good job by me in my degree. But it's all this math behind it to figure out how much does one SHL point or any other league is it worth at the NHL level? And then you can compare and contrast players more evenly, right? Because with Robin Salo, for example, you're like, he jumped above everyone else. Well, he has been playing with men for like the last 5 years. Whereas
very true.
Samuel Bodzik just started playing against men this year, and Bodie Wild as well. So you're going, yeah, he's been playing against 30-year-old and former NHLers since he was like 17.
Yeah.
So that means something.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. I hadn't thought of it that way. So that's really good to know. Another player who I would love to know now what his NHLE is like, and I wonder about, is Ruslan Iskakov. Did I pronounce that the right way?
Apparently, the K is silent. When you look at the Cyrillics, it's got an X, and an X is like an H. So it's more like Ishakov.
Okay, so Ruslan Ishakov. He's a second-round pick in 2018. He's got some talent. I know that from you. What's his future look like? Does he have a place in the NHL, being that he's played the last two seasons overseas in the Liga and now the Dell? But, after 2 years in the NCAA, which I don't think went as well as he had hoped.
It went pretty well. Not great. You're right. Like 21 points in 32 games in both years.
Yeah.
But that's as a freshman. And then I always screw this up. Junior is the second year, right? In college?
Sophomore.
There you go. We don't have these here. It's just year 1 through 4. So I always screw that up. But yeah, 32 games, 21 points across both. Was an impact player. Famously in like his second game with UConn, got rocked hard. He was carrying the puck through the zone and head down, and boom, concussed immediately. Just absolute freight train. But he bounced back from that, put up solid points, and then he went to Finland last year to become a pro. COVID was the reason for that. He wanted to play more, right? He got 54 games instead of the 32. He basically played the same amount, and that's not counting playoffs, and that's not counting he had a 3-on-3 tournament. He's going to play a ton more in Europe than he did last year, or in college. He put up 38 points that year, which is 25 points at the NHL level. It's not crazy, but he's also playing on lower caliber players. So you imagine he's playing with higher caliber players, maybe he puts up more. Right. I love this prospect. High offense ability, like insane puck ability, IQ. He's got it all. The only thing he doesn't have is size. He's 5'7", at best 5'8", 165, maybe 170 if he's put on more muscle this year. He's not big. And so that's going to hold him back.
That's a Matt Zuccarello frame, if you will, correct?
That's exactly it. If he doesn't make the NHL, it's going to be because of that. And there's nothing you can do about that.
So with no contract being signed yet, and the reason why I asked this was because I had said how much it speaks to Ratu that he had signed so quickly. With no contract being signed with Ishakov yet, does that mean that they still are hesitant to bring him aboard? And how much does that speak to how quickly they signed Ratu?
So good point with the Ratu there. Yeah, that means something. If the Islanders were kind of like, well, we'll see what happens. They could have waited, right? He was on the contract for a year. He wasn't going anywhere. And they didn't. They locked him up ASAP. the deal's going to slide. So there's no loss. If anything, it's a benefit for the Islanders on the cap, right? It just lowers the cap hit.
Yeah.
But yeah, they haven't signed Rustin Ishikov yet. Does that mean that they don't like him? I think they like him, but they want to see more. Again, it comes back to size. It really does. Like, he's going to have like 150% more production than an equally skilled player who stands 6 feet tall and then weighs 180 pounds.
Right.
So like,
he's doing that in the Liga and in the Dell League, correct?
Well, he hasn't really done much in the German league yet this year. They've only played 2 CHL games. That's Championship Hockey League. It's like the Champions League for hockey. And so they've only played 2 games. His team won 5-0 against Cardiff. He was incredible in that game. Didn't score one, but he probably could have had 2 or 3. And then they got rocked by Lukko, which is like his old nemesis. When he was in Finland, Lukko would routinely beat TPS. Routinely, even in the finals. They were in the finals, TPS and Lukko, for the championship, and they lost out to them. So like, even when he wants to beat them bad and wasn't able to last time.
All right. Well, a player I was interested to not see, and a little surprised to not see on this list, and even the honorable mentions, was Colin Adams, who had an excellent year in NCAA for North Dakota. He accrued 34 points, 14 goals, 20 assists in 29 games. Would you say that this was a snub? Should he have maybe been considered for the top Islanders prospects? I know that's not saying much in this prospect pool, but at least, amongst this crop, was he a snub from this list?
Yes, 100%. In my rankings, based off NHL and growth, it's not the same rankings that Corey Pronman does, where he's watching film. I'm still, of course, watching film, but I'm not letting that impact the rankings necessarily. My top 5 guys are in order: Salo, Bajuk, Ishikov, Durando, Adams.
Wow.
Keep in mind, like, Adams had a great year, but it was the top line center for the top ranked program for the last 2 years and put up points. Yeah, he was playing with a lot of talent. So we'll see this year if he's a dependent player or an independent player. Can he bring it on his own, or are other players? Does he need to be fueled by the players around him, which is kind of the Simone Holmstrom situation?
That's very interesting that you have him in your top 5, and he wasn't even mentioned in Pronman's. I'm very excited to see Colin Adams down in the AHL with Bridgeport this season. Before we let you go, Mitch, we have a couple of fan questions, and this was I had the same question as Tristan Peck on Twitter, and he wanted to know, of the prospects in the pipeline, not named Ratu or Dufour, because we've already spoken about them, who's a dark horse to make an impact?
Love Tristan. Thank you, Tristan, for that. Oh, he's great. I would say Alex Jeffries.
Okay.
So, Alex Jeffries is a 4th-round pick from 2020. Played in Merrimack, played at prep school before that, had incredible numbers at prep school. But last year had a really good season playing for Merrimack. I'm just trying to bring it up now here if I can. His NHL, he had him on pace for 13 points at an NHL level. Keep in mind, he's a freshman, true freshman. So first year college, first year playing college, put up 10 points in 12 games. Finished in the top 50 for the Hobey Baker Award. He was never going to win it. But even just to get that, like, hey, he was really good this year at a collegiate level of all college players is something. When I spoke to his coach, he said he's probably the smartest player in this league.
Wow. That
He's
says a lot.
Super smart. He's, again, freshman playing in their top 6. He was still putting up points when most of their centers were out with injury, like their top 3 centers. He was still putting up points. He played on the power play, and he played on the penalty kill. So, like, incredible levels of responsibility for, again, a freshman. That's not something that happens at the college level. Usually it's like, here's the clipboard, hold that for a couple of years, and in year 3, maybe you'll get a chance to play top 6 minutes. For him, it was right out of the gate.
Alex Jeffries, huh? So that's your pick. I like that a lot because I had seen him on the list, and I have been seeing some things about his play right before the whole world shut down. Haven't seen much about him since, but like we both said, there hasn't been who's been playing, who hasn't been playing, what leagues are shut down, and everything. So very interesting. It sounds like, despite the ranked 27th overall, the Islanders prospect is not as bad as everyone kind of seems it is.
27 sounds bad, right? You're saying
Yeah.
27 out of 32. Oh my God. The way I choose to look at it is, okay, well, it's an inverse of your chances of winning the Stanley Cup,
That's also true.
right? Because the reason that it's ranked 27th is because, well, we're competing for cups and we're mortgaging future for current. So
Right.
that's fine with me. I'm okay with that. You can't have both. I know everyone wants like the top 5 prospect pool and competing for cups,
Right.
but you don't usually get both. And if you do, it's because you got real damn lucky or your scouting staff is the best in the world. And there are very few teams who can do that.
Look at Pittsburgh and Washington.
Yeah. They're also
Ter-
in the
terrible.
bottom 5.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, that's not good.
It's not.
I mean, they
good.
won their cups,
Exactly.
and I brought this up a few episodes ago. I wonder how fast Islander fans start, bringing out the pitchforks after the Islanders win a cup. They're like, "Why did this sucks?" And like, we're going to be terrible. I was like, "Yes, we want a Stanley Cup. Like, it's going to happen."
That,
Like,
that's
they're not even going to enjoy it for any amount of time.
immediately. The pitchfork is that's within reach. It's like, come on, give me a reason.
Well, I mean, if it's not, after the Islanders win a Stanley Cup, it's because all the signings haven't been announced that we pretty much already know. Because he's trying to make some other fantastic move, I'm sure, or at least we'll learn about it at some point. So
Yeah.
only
It's
something.
great that he's our snake, right? Like he's snaking the entire league, and for once, he's ours. I love it.
Yeah, it's definitely a great feeling, and there are some haters and some doubters out there about Lou Lamoriello, but he's doing what he can behind the scenes. Mitch, the last question we have for you before we let you go, Tom, the old Isles fan since '75, he wants you to know, been that long. He wants you to compare and contrast Robin Salo to Samuel Bolduc.
So compare and contrast. So figure out which one is better at what type of thing. Well, Robin Salo is offense first. When I spoke to him a couple of months ago, he was telling me that I didn't start out as a defenseman. He started out as a forward. He watched Sidney Crosby. That's the guy that
wow.
he was watching, the guy he wanted to be. Maybe not to be, but like the guy that he was really kind of keen on watching and studied, I guess, at a young age. He was a forward turned defenseman in his like mid-teens type of thing, or early teens maybe. So like he's offense first. That's his thing. It's not that he can't play defense, but don't expect him to be Adam Pellet because you're going to be sorely disappointed. Whereas Samuel Bolduc is a little bit of both. Again, il est un athlète. He's an athlete. He can play 25 minutes a night and give you something good. Is he going to be a Ryan Pulak? I don't know, but I would say he's more of a Ryan Pulak than an Adam Pellet.
That's
he's got a heck of a shot. It's not Ryan Pulak levels, but it's not far off either.
that's a good comparison, though. I like to hear that.
That's where I would say. So you would look at Robin Salo if we want to compare it to Islanders players. Robin Salo, Nick Leddy, and that's me just like pigeonholing them, and Samuel Bolduc, Ryan Pulak at their peaks.
Wow, that's some nice comparisons there, and like you said, you're pigeonholing them, but definitely good to hear. Hope to see these young players sprout to what they could be. Mitch, we want to thank you for joining us today. We couldn't thank you enough. We wanted to give you the opportunity to just plug your work, tell everybody where they can find you, and maybe a little bit about your Deckhands YouTube channel.
Yeah, so head over. Thank you for having me, guys. It's actually been a real pleasure for me to be on the show. You listen.
Why are you so surprised? Why are you saying that so surprised?
I don't know. I don't always get
it is actually good.
I think that's the French in me, where you're supposed to say it that way.
Okay. And we're the rude ones in New York, eh? Like, what is that about?
Apparently, I don't want to get there. Your bagels are Let's just go there.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow! All right.
I'm not a fan of New York bagels. I also eat pizza cold and with a fork and knife when I'm here. I don't eat fork and knife when I'm in New York.
Do French Canadians also eat everything with a knife and fork?
Oh,
or is that just like in? Yeah, okay. I was like Parisian French folk.
No,
French.
We like to think we're fancy. We're not. Like you listen to our language compared to French from France, and it's not very fancy at all. But that's where we make up for. Like, oh, une couteau puis une fourchette. Oui, merci. So you can get all of my stuff, prospect stuff, Deckhands. So the Deckhands YouTube channel, all prospects all the time. Only Islanders prospects. No one else. I don't care about any other prospect pool. Just the Islanders. Eyes on Isles, of course. Anything Eyes on Isles related. EyesOnIsles.com. The podcast, the Patreon. It's all kinds of stuff there. Just look up Eyes on Isles. Even if it's not on my own stuff, just read it. There you go. A click a day will keep the doctor away. How about that?
Or you can at least afford it.
True.
Yes. Yeah. I can afford it here for sure. Well, I don't know. I don't have this is my full-time job, so there's no health insurance involved in this. But at least Canada, we have some things that you guys don't, I guess.
Don't rub it in. All right. I don't stop.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut myself right now and just run to the doctor for free.
Great.
Well, Mitch, like we said, we thank you for joining us, and we hope to do this again with you sometime soon.
Anytime, boys. Anytime at all.
All right. Thanks, Mitch. That was Mitch Anderson of Eyes on Isles. We thank him so much for coming on the show. Very insightful with New York Islanders prospects.
What a nice guy.
Very nice.
I'm not surprised, as I was making fun of him for that. I'm not surprised, but I'll say, with Damian Woody last week and all the people that we've had on the show, even Nick Alberga.
Yeah.
Just really cool people in the hockey community. I think that's my favorite, that's my takeaway from this when I talk to people about doing the show and being involved in the community. Meet some just awesome people.
Yeah, we've gotten really lucky. We haven't had I can't think of one instance where we've had a run-in with somebody who we weren't comfortable with and wouldn't welcome back on the show with open arms. I think that we've been
we're just in general fans, and we're getting that traction where they want to ask questions, and we can kind of put that out there. And I love that engagement that keeps us going. That's really cool. This is a hobby, so it's fun to have other people kind of along for the ride as we figure it out. But yeah, that's awesome. As we said kind of before we hit record, that I'm an Eyes on Isles alum, and Jay kind of is de facto. So it's a small community. The writing communities, I think it's been a lot of the same people for a long time, but that means we've all kind of developed a voice in this community. And only recently has it super blown up. Maybe
since the Islanders have started doing well,
which is good. I mean, that people want to talk about it. It's better than the alternative. I think the tools are also out there.
Yeah.
It's cool to see a lot of the podcasts out there. I don't know how it's going to work. It's like, how many breweries can there be? I guess it's the same thing with hockey and Islander podcasts. But I think at certain times of the year, you just want as much perspective as possible. And we're happy if you're listening.
Yeah.
That we're part of your rotation.
Definitely. We appreciate the support as always. Just always want to make sure that everybody listening does know that we love doing it because we know you love listening to it. So, but all right, let's get to, there was some news, kind of, sort of, a little bit.
Stuff we knew, but some stuff
we knew, but it's a little more confirmed, but not official. Arthur Staple tweeted out today that he had heard Casey Cizikas is rejoining the Isles on a 6 by $2.5 million contract. That's 6 years at $2.5 million AAV. Sorry. And it was rumored for a while now, and it's all but confirmed. So I don't think we really have to rehash any of that. I just wanted to say that, it speaks volumes to how far the Islanders organization has come, because it's no longer a place where people are getting traded to for the trade deadline and then running away from. It's no longer a destination where nobody will come to, but it's now a destination that nobody wants to leave.
Yeah, I think, and Compton just tweeted that a little bit ago. I agree. I love it. I think it was a really long time ago where it was actually trade deadline acquisitions, which speaks to how long ago the Islanders were good and trying to make runs. Up until recently, where they were making additions, and then the guys were, Peugeot signed before he landed in New York. After that trade, or seemingly before he landed in New York. So it's cool that there were those opportunities, and it's it's getting there. I think, when you there's only so many spots on this team that are going to open up here and there. So it's a little coveted. Not a lot of UFAs can come here. There aren't that many trade options. It's tough. You're dealing with Lou. Your GM's got to deal with Lou to, get you traded there if the Islanders are on your top 5 and you have a no move clause or limited no trade or something. So it's definitely cool to see that. And as we've said, as Woody said last week, as Damien said last week, play it cool. Lou's got this. And then the rankings came out like not too long after that. The Islanders were top 5 rated. Like their fans trusted the GMs that had faith in it. So that just kind of backed up his point. So I don't think anyone was worried. And look, so the news comes out, everyone's really excited, everyone gets dissecting this deal and is it good? It's a fourth liner and blah blah blah. Shut up.
Yeah, we've said it before.
Like it's fine. Like it's gonna work. There's still a lot of space. I still have my perspective that they're gonna go after a blue liner and save the cap until the trade deadline. So it's even at 2.5, which we really should start writing down our guesses on this stuff. I think we've only remembered one of them so far, which is Pulak. So we should probably make a habit.
Well, in my article, I want to say back in June, maybe July, projecting what the Islanders, might do, roster projections, I had 6 by 2.5 in all 3 of my projections.
Maybe that might have been Staple 2 was around the same number.
Yeah, I think maybe one of them I had a 4-year by $3 million contract. But
at that point, you're just trying to figure out like what's the wiggle room, like what's going on. And I'll say this too. So JFresh Hockey, who always has like great stats and different kind of figures,
great analytics.
If you're into that, I could stand to pay a little more attention to it, to be completely honest. But he said Cizikas is one of the best, if not the best, bottom 6 defensive center in the NHL. A lot of term to get that discount though.
You imagine by possibly year 4 or 5, I'm going to lean towards 5. You might say to yourself, maybe it's not the best contract, but by that time you got most of what you needed out of Casey Cizikas. And who's to say that he's not going to last that long? I know he plays a tough game where that style of play, it's hard to keep up with consistently throughout your career. If you want to have a long one, he'll be 34, 35 by then. But he's also only making $2.5 million. So that's not that hard to move.
Or Barry or whatever the deal is. Like, and that's, I think we've said that. I think I've said that, which I've borrowed from other shows, other writers and everything out there. Cause I think it's correct that these GMs know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They'll make it work in the long term. That's the Martin deal. If something goes, although I think his up, I don't have cap friendly in front of me, but all these deals, they can make it work in the long term. They're not signing them to do that, but they know that it's an option, one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of defensive forwards or good two-way forwards, this forward is a little bit better in the offensive zone. He's known for finishing in the offensive zone. He's known to have a great two-way game. Tomas Hertl may want out of San Jose.
Who started this with the connection to the Isles? Did anyone actually say that?
I don't
was
know.
This just like everyone did the eye emoji?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Everyone kind of was just like, oh, the Islanders should be all over that. Oh, which is with every named player that's decent in the league.
I mean, this one's not.
This one's now. Listen,
bad option.
I'll say this: he's a great player. He plays both center and right wing. We know there's no fit up the middle, but is he a good option on the wing, in your opinion? Is he someone you think the Islanders should look into?
I haven't seen a whole lot. I mean, his numbers are good. He's 2 seasons removed from 35 goals.
Yes.
He was second in scoring on San Jose last season. My memory of him playing is, I think, and this is a long time ago already, but didn't he had like a hat trick in one of his first few games. He had like a weird between the legs goal. Like he scored some ridiculous.
His first game ever against the
New
York Rangers.
Four goals.
4 goals. One
That's
of them
what it was.
between the legs. Yeah.
I'm glad I said it right before you, or I would have felt But we said it at the same time. No, but yeah, I think I remember that. It was crazy. I kind of forgot about him. He's kind of quietly, and maybe just because, East Coast bias and on the fans and so on and so forth. Also, the last 2 years, yada yada, you kind of forget about these guys out west, and also San Jose's just not been good. I mean, so I do have his cap friendly up.
Yeah,
so
that's one obstacle. He's about $5.2 something million. He's owed.
Well, so it's he had a signing bonus, which presumably would have been paid. So it's not cash. So Islanders can, owners have to think about that kind of thing. But yes, it's 5.625, which is a lot for
a cap strap team.
I don't know. I mean, for the Islander, I don't know that they are. Like I said, I think, and the question then is, so you get one, if it happens before the season, it's a full season rental. This wouldn't be a bad move. If San Jose is not good, they probably won't be. Right. But if San Jose is not good again, this is somebody this is the move that I'm saying, and maybe we book this 51-20 into the episode. This is a type of player that's on Lamoureux's radar at the trade deadline with the cap space that they don't use up front for a Tarasenko or something like that. They roll with bringing in Palmieri, bringing back Lee, bringing in Parise. Wallstrom's solidified on the third line. You got your Cizikas is back. You got your 12 guys. You don't have to worry about it. If you need a punch midway through the season, nearing the trade deadline, and Parise can be your 13th forward, this is the guy you bring in. This is the guy that helps you really in the playoff run, that can score goals. He's got playoff experience with San Jose. They've gone deep before. This is the guy that you go and rent, because you're not going to do it now, because we've talked about it. Everyone's up in arms. Who do you leave Bailey out, you trade Beauvillier. You're not going to trade any of those guys for 1 year of Hertl. But you do make some kind of trade that you do maybe overpay a little bit. And then you have the opportunity to re-sign them. You get them to love it. It's in UBS Arena, brand new, all this kind of stuff. You kind of have them buy in.
That's depending on what Islander way.
And kind of figure it out that way. Maybe that means
it's possible. I mean, he's only 27 years old. It seems like he's been in the league forever, because, like you said, his first year, I think he broke in at 18, and he made a pretty immediate impact. But I do feel like he's been in the league forever. He's only 27. Really? He's going to be in his age 28 season, so his age kind of matches up with the rest of the roster. So maybe you're on to something there.
I think if there was ever a guy like market down, trade deadline acquisition type player, or earlier, like if the Islanders are just kind of like 500 team around Thanksgiving and something's not some whatever, that could be somebody. I'm not gonna say it. Something could happen. You never know. You just need to, up front. Lamoureux can see I think the forest and the trees. Sometimes you need a scoring punch. This is the kind of guy that you bring in. That maybe you leave Palmieri back on the third line. You put him up on the first. I don't know. Again, they're like 3-second line, so a lot of these guys are really replaceable. It's who complements Barzal the best, but I'd say that makes sense to me.
You say that where 3-second lines and a third line is basically the structure of this team. My question is, does he push the needle? Does he give the Islanders a bona fide first line if he's
I think Palmieri does. I think he pushes it a little bit more. I think he's got a little bit more flair. I don't know him as a player, what his defensive stats are, what else does he bring to the table. He's a center, so you think he's part-time center. You think he's defensive minded a little bit, so it's possible he can bring that to the table. I don't know him as a general player, though. I don't as a team player. He's a goal scoring guy. I mean, not that Palmieri isn't, or some of these players aren't, but can he fit that team game? does
Well,
it
here's
work?
the thing: if this says anything to you, the reason that they're saying he might want out is because he is not happy with the way San Jose is handling the Evander Kane situation.
I
So
mean
that tells
and-
me that he is a team guy and he wants a good atmosphere to be a part of. Maybe he feels like San Jose is not that anymore, given what's going on in San Jose with Evander Kane.
I mean, I think the issue with Evander Kane, beyond like on the hockey side of things and in the locker room and stuff like that, the other stuff is tough to watch someone go through. Even if they're doing some of it to themselves, it's difficult. You don't want to see people kind of go through what he's going through, even if self-inflicted. But when he got there were a lot of leaders on that team, and Joe Thornton's and so on, and they were trending in the right direction, all that kind of stuff. Now that's it. There's really, Marlowe's not there anymore, right? Is he done? Did he retire?
Yep, he's not there anymore.
Thornton's obviously not there. Couture might still be there, but Pavelski's not there. There's no leader on the team to kind of like keep him on the straight and narrow. And I had heard that a couple times, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense. If maybe things got worse, maybe it was always kind of iffy the whole time, and they were just good leaders on the team to keep everything quiet and keep everything kind of somewhat kosher, and the wheels kind of come off when they're gone, or at least doesn't help. So yeah, I mean, if Hertl doesn't, I think it's Tomas. I can't remember.
Tomas.
Yeah. Yeah, if he doesn't like the room, the way that everything's being handled, they're not really trending in the right direction. The Islanders certainly are. He would have some suitors, like, he has a modified no trade, I believe. Yep. And, he can kind of pick where he wants to go. I'm sure, this has Pittsburgh Penguins written all over it. Something like that. This has like one of those situations where he winds up in the Metro. Boston's probably looking for somebody. I don't know what their cap situation is exactly.
That's the first thing I thought of.
Pittsburgh, like this has black and gold all over it.
Oh yeah. I can't think of a better player actually to mimic what David Krejci brought to the Bruins. I think that Tomas Hertl is probably a shoo-in for that second line role in Boston.
Now their cap situation even still isn't great, and they don't really have the roster
$6 million from David Krejci.
Yeah, I'm showing Aaty. Maybe they didn't take him off yet.
Maybe not yet.
No, it's he ain't there no more.
Really?
So I don't know what.
Interesting.
And they have a full ass roster.
Yeah.
They do still now. They need to do something because they still have. Wait, who left?
David Krejci. He retired.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to make sure. I was like looking at the brusque. I'm like, is that the guy? No, it's not.
No,
he's
no.
no. Like I just got okay. They still haven't signed Tuukka. Now he said he'd play for Bud Light.
Yeah, he said he wouldn't play anywhere else.
So, but that doesn't mean there's only $1.5 million left. You got to do something.
Yeah, I mean, but DeBrusk is been a name that could go the other way. Rumored to be on the move as well. He's a young guy, so that would help out San Jose with if they're gonna trade Hertl and maybe blow it up over there.
I mean, it's $1.5 million difference in salary.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And then they just brought on Taylor Hall for 6 sheets. So that's they're in a tough situation, but again,
I don't doubt them to figure it out though.
Yeah, Pittsburgh is also tight. I mean, maybe the Islanders have, are one of the only contending teams that could make it work. I wonder what it would mean after this year. Do you take a discount to be like, can the Islanders truly be that like a Boston Bruins type thing where these guys are taking discounts and they're going to win? Do they want to do that? No one's really getting paid more than $7 million.
Yeah, I honestly, before this whole offseason, I really thought that players were going to have to get used to the idea of taking a pay cut to play somewhere. But you see deals that went down, and that's just not what happened, man. Guys are still getting paid, and look at Dougie Hamilton. I mean, we're talking about a different echelon of player, but still, I mean,
I think it just hurts the middle and the lower get squeezed. You have to pay some of your top guys. It just might not make it through everybody, which sounds a lot like other things, but yeah, I think that's just the way that it is right now until the cap goes up a little bit. But when you're in that situation, I don't blame them, especially with the way that escrow's working and the players owing the owners and blah blah blah. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So you definitely you want yours up front to make sure that I don't know what it's like to have that much money. Like, I don't know what the difference is between $5.5 and $6.5 million. Like, let me tell
you real quick. I have no idea either.
That says generational wealth to me. Like, I their grandkids probably don't have to worry about it.
Probably.
So I don't know. Like, when you're down to that kind of thing, like, I don't know what that negotiation is like.
Right.
That sounds like in the thousands of dollars if you're at a job negotiation. Like, I don't really. At a certain point, are you doing it for pride, or do you really need $2,300? Like, I don't know what that's really like. So, who knows? But will he take a haircut? Who knows? Like, that does scream a little bit of rental to me. Trade deadline. So make me eat crow in February or March or something, whenever the trade deadline is. We'll figure it out then.
Yeah. It's looking like the NHL is going to the Olympics. So wanted to talk a little bit about who you think the Islanders candidates could be to play for their respective countries. For Canada,
we may hear this week.
We may. Yeah.
That NHL players are going.
Yeah,
there's like vaccination stuff that they got to figure out.
It was like a thing today that it's looking like it's going to happen. So that this isn't just out of the blue. This is there is reports that are circulating that it's looking good. I think it actually might have been. Was it Emily Kaplan? I don't know if it was her. Let's see.
There were a few. There was John Shannon had tweeted stuff. It's kind of been floating around.
Yeah, so it's looking like it's going to happen. Now, let's talk about some of the candidates. Starting with Team Canada. Who do you see on the Islanders that can join Team Canada, whether they're a regular or maybe, just a filler, or just at least invited to camp?
Yeah, I know we have in our notes, I think we have like all the same people here, but I don't see how you don't bring Barzal.
Of course.
Canada's just so stacked. Yeah. Like, I mean, I know it's tough. Like, if he didn't make it, it would feel like a snub. I don't get offended when Islander players don't make certain lists or on Olympic teams.
Rest time,
whatever. Can't get injured at home.
Yep. Unless you're PK Subban, who I think was jumping on a trampoline.
Something like that. Hey man, dude has fun. He lives his life. I'll be PK Subban any day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you see him on that roster. You think about who he could be playing alongside, and that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I wonder if Pulak and Pulak would make it. I feel like it really depends on the way that they want to construct that roster.
Well, Barry Trotz is the assistant coach.
I think that'll have something to do with 2 or 3 of them making it, but I think it's the overall direction.
Yeah.
If they feel like they need an offensive punch, Pulak definitely makes it. If they need somebody to lock it down, and that's where they're, not to say that both of them are bottom of the barrel and they're, this are their last picks, putting their rosters together, but it depends on where the holes are.
Yeah.
Is Pulak the best offensive defenseman that they could be choosing from? I don't know. I don't know that. Is Pulak one of the best shutdown? Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely up there. It would be, if you're looking for that, if that's the type of team you're putting together, it's a little more gritty. Pulak, I think it's an easier pick, honestly. I think it's harder for Pulak to crack that, just even with Trotz there.
Yeah.
I think that's difficult for him. But if they need it, they need an extra. They really want to load up power plays. They really want to have a weapon. He's a right-hand shot, so that'll help him for sure.
That does, yeah.
So I would love to see both of them. That would be super cool.
It would be super interesting, since Trotz is the assistant coach, if they were to both make it because they're a pairing.
Like, I think it has. Who are those other four defensemen? That's kind of where I'm trying to think of, and just the team in general. Like, what type of team are you bringing this tournament?
Yeah, probably heavy offense. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, you're not. Look, they've done. I think they've had Chris Draper on their roster before. Like, it's not. He's good. I don't think of him as like Olympic or caliber. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It really depends on how are they, and that might be the difference with Barzal too. Like, do they have the speed? Do they need the right-handed center? What's the balance of everything?
Oh my God, could you imagine a roster, or even a line, if you will, that consists of Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid, and Matthew Barzal?
I don't even know who plays what. I think we talk about it at some point about when there was like an Olympic roster that come out, and we are talking about Barzal was on one and not the other. It was a few episodes ago.
Probably.
Dog days of summer. Some things are getting recycled a little bit, but I think I forget who he was next to, and I was like, that's a sick line. Like, Marner got pushed down a little bit.
I think next to Stone.
Yeah, it was somebody. It was something like that. It was like somebody two good players, and again, it really depends. Trotz will definitely be able to make an argument, to have a guy like Barzal that he plays the system. He can be a bottom six forward on this Canadian Olympic team and play a specific role. Thing is, like, he's not terribly good at faceoffs.
True.
There's better weapons.
I think he could play a wing.
He could. I'm just trying. I'm thinking of
for this tournament, because he'll be among other fantastic players.
Right. He will likely not get penalty kill time. He'll likely not get power play time. What's his role in this team?
I mean, that's the thing though. When you're building this Olympic roster, it's not like I don't think they say to themselves, all right, well, who's going to be in our bottom six and kill penalties? I think they're just going to take the best available talent, because they have the cream of the crop. So it's just they could roll, 4 first lines, and I think that the thought process there too is other teams are going to be trying to just load their offense and just load their team with the best players, not necessarily this guy. This could be completely wrong, but I don't know how much they analyze. Okay, this is going to be a third line checking line rather than a scoring line.
I mean, I don't think it's like that necessarily, but it's the more assets you bring to the table, where someone goes down with an injury, whatever the case is, who can you filter in? How can you make it work? What is Barzal like? Look, he's obviously a fantastic talent. The team is good with him on it. It's not going to be worse with him on it. But maybe what else can you bring to the table? How can he? Does Trotz think he can move to the wing in a tournament like this alongside players like that? He's obviously these last two seasons for Barzal have been far and away his best.
Yeah, all around,
offensively, like the flair that we think that he was capable of, he finally did it. Now
don't mistake the point totals with what you're saying right now, and this is to everyone. I was gonna say I think the last two seasons have been lower on there, and I just want to point out that just because the point totals don't really match what you're saying, he has been offensively the best he's ever been, despite him having 85 points in his rookie year. He has been a better player all around, but also specifically on offense because of what he's doing and how he's creating plays out there.
Yeah, the whole thing, just the confidence to do certain things, evolving his game a little bit. I think that's exactly it. It's not just about the points. It's how he's elevating his game and how that translates to making the team better. And they've made 2 conference finals in a row. I don't really care what the season looked like, and how they got there. They did it.
And I don't think that he cares that he only scored 70 points. I think he cares that he got to the Eastern Conference Finals twice.
Oh, you could tell that that's what it means to all of these players.
Yeah.
Palmieri could have not scored a goal the rest of the way and won the cup, and that would have been fine.
Exactly.
It just doesn't matter. I think as a team they just kind of all buy in. Circling back to the Olympic thing, I think it depends on how they're putting their roster together. What do they need as far as righties and lefties and all these little things that I think is hard for us, having never put a roster quite like this together, other than who do we think is good.
Yeah.
It's a little tough.
And that's why, I said too, maybe this is just who at least gets an invite, right? And for Team USA, I think Nelson and Lee should both at least definitely get an invite, don't you?
Nelson for sure as a center. I don't really know who he'd be in front of, but I see him as a bottom 6 center.
Yeah,
he can definitely play that role.
You definitely have at least Eichel and Matthews in front of him.
Yeah, so then I guess that third, maybe he's a third center and there's somebody behind him.
Yeah, and I'm probably not remembering an obvious choice in front of Nelson that's a superstar, and someone's going to tweet at me, "Don't forget so and so," and I can't remember right now.
Neither. I have no idea.
But I mean, I don't see why not for both Nelson and Lee to at least get an invite to camp. Maybe they don't make the team, but it would be interesting. Now, Team Russia, I think this is an interesting one here. I think Varlamov and Sorokin could not only be invited, but be the tandem there.
I wonder if they both go. Sorokin won them a gold medal.
That's what I'm saying.
Is he the guy? Is in this weird reversal, he's the guy? and Varlamov backs him up.
What a scene that would be. And I would love to soak up every second of that.
Now, this is to say, I think Sorokin's very well regarded in not Russian hockey, because it's not the Russian Olympic team anymore. It's the Olympic athletes from Russia or whatever. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's probably, he probably got that chance and he ran with it and they won because Varlamov couldn't play because he was in the NHL. Now, that doesn't mean he's still not their guy.
Right.
But it'd be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that. I get a little worried with goalies going because they can get injured and they can get tired. And the good thing is that they're both 1A, 1B with the Islanders.
Exactly.
So even if only one of them goes, there's still a little bit of time. You hope that these guys, like any of these guys from the Islanders that are also going to go to the Olympics, don't also have to go to the All-Star game, which is in the schedule. Mm-hmm. You hope that they're not doing all of this extra travel and all this other stuff, and then everyone else is idle, which is every single team. Everyone's going to have their guys. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I think that wraps up on the island. Let's get to around the rink.
Yeah, additional support for this podcast. This week's episode is brought to you by our friends at Manscaped. Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world, and now an official podcast sponsor.
Absolutely, officially.
At least for the next few months, and we're really stoked that we're making it work together. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer. They've been a member of the show all throughout August, and we've had the pleasure of using their products, and they're great. The Lawnmower 4.0, you heard that right, 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code NHP20 at manscaped.com. Imagine shaving with a sleek, well-designed and optimized trimmer that makes shaving time your favorite time in the bathroom. You can definitely, that 20% off is going to work great when you get the trimmer. And Jay, we keep talking about them, these boxers.
They're possibly my favorite thing.
Yeah,
and the buzzer is the best buzzer I've ever had, and that's speaks to how great these boxers are.
Yeah, even when it's a low charge, it's still fine. It doesn't slow down, and that's like the whole nick safe technology or skin safe technology that Manscaped called. Like, it's good. Wireless charging. It is the ultimate groin and body trimmer focused functionality. Incredibly comfortable grooming experience. I use it. It's you can wash it or you can put it in water. It's great. We talked about my beard earlier. You can use it on below the waist. You can clean it. You can trim up your beard. It's really good. Doesn't nick, none of that kind of stuff. Like I said, wireless charging, using electromagnetic induction, which can help the battery last longer. So it's time to get your own trimmer with Manscaped to make me time the best time and enhance your confidence wherever. Make it more comfortable, whatever you're doing. It's fantastic. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code NHP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the code NHP20. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tool for the job with Manscaped.
Rumor has it if you just get a buzzer, you can grow a beard as well as John does. And if you're not watching this on YouTube and you're only listening in your car or somewhere on a commute, or if you're home, you can't see just how big and luscious and well-groomed John's beard is, but it is. Trust me when I tell you.
The trick is, so you order the Manscaped buzzer, right? But you have to sleep with it under your pillow.
And
then it'll help.
The beard fairy comes and grants you this.
Yeah, I can't speak to any of that. I'm under contract, but yeah, it's something. As long as it's under your pillow.
Oh, don't worry. The beard fairy, when he comes in, he's wearing a Manscaped shirt.
He's wearing a Manscaped shirt. Also comfortable as all hell.
Oh yeah,
it's fantastic.
It really is.
Yeah, the name, and I'll say this: it's like if you just are whoever you are. I know Manscaped makes it sound like it's just like for one part of the gender identities that are out there. If you just whoever you are, like this, it's probably good for whatever you need.
Yeah.
So I would say it's comfortable and all that kind of stuff. Easy to travel with, because I've done that too recently. It's all good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk about some more Olympic decisions. And it looks like former Islander and Frans Nielsen will be headed to the Olympics with his national team, Denmark, for the first time. It's been a long time that that country has been trying to get into the Olympics, and it looks like the other day they finally did.
Yeah, it was a cool story that Staple put out, kind of looking back on Nielsen's time with the Islanders and how he was still kind of talked about with teammates and even former teammates like Grabner. But Martin was like, he's like one of my favorite teammates ever. Islander fans could probably easily forget what he did for this team.
Yes.
I love Peugeot, and maybe Nielsen was really, you forget it was 5 years ago he's not been on this team, which seems crazy. If you follow this team with any regularity, it seems crazy that that's how long ago it was. But like Cizikas and Martin and Bailey, he was really there for the lean times that helped kind of build momentum to where they are. I know despite the hiccups, but he really held it down. He's easily one of the best third line centers this team's had until Peugeot. Filppula did a hell of a job, but it was still no Nielsen.
Also, I don't know that there's too many that are better in the shootout than he.
No, I mean that. For all of that. There's a Lighthouse Hockey used to have a quote about Nielsen. I can't remember what it was. I'm sure Dom or one of those dudes could say it. A pastry with no holes is a Danish. A Dane with no holes is Frans Nielsen. Something like
That's probably it.
It's something to that effect. It
That's
was
great.
really they're clever over there. But I obviously I remember that it meant something to me. But yeah, it was he was kind of just like quietly one of the leaders in the team. I encourage you, if you have a subscription, go read The Athletic, that article that Stable had put out. It's also cool to see former Islanders just talk about their time with the team. Grabner was on No Sleep Till Belmont.
Yeah, that was a great interview.
Earlier this year or something. And it was super cool to hear that perspective and how much these players love being on Long Island.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that doesn't, like, sorry, we're getting off topic here a little bit, but, we talked about earlier about, Cizikas wanting to stay and maybe taking a little bit more of a team-friendly deal and play, like, maybe the tie starting to change. It's amazing that what players describe to Staple quite often in articles or on the podcast about loving their time there.
Yeah.
Didn't just make it around the NHL. I don't know why it was so hard. They weren't good, if that's really like the ultimate thing, but yeah, it's crazy that all these players have really fond memories, and that doesn't, like, it's a tight-knit community. There's only so many hundreds of NHL players at any one time anyway. Like, how it didn't make it around the league to like make an effect and have players want to come, but
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what those conversations are like.
There was an interesting debate going on Twitter today too about whether or not, for some reason, I don't even know how this came up, but whether or not it was or wasn't the right choice to let Frans Nielsen walk. And I don't even think it went down that way. I think the Islanders at the time, and this is just me taking a shot in the dark, reading the tea leaves, but from back in the day. But I think that the Islanders probably offered Frans Nielsen something to stay. He got a better offer somewhere else, and ultimately they weren't succeeding when he got that better offer anyway. So a change.
I think he was looking for more term, and
and
the Islanders thing came later, and he got what he wanted, how much he wanted, for how long.
Yeah, he signed day one, hour one in Detroit when that deadline, or when the free agency period started.
Well, he had the opportunity to speak with teams early,
right?
And I think he did. And the Islanders, may have come later in that,
right? Exactly,
that window, and that hurt their chances. But
again, like you said, that doesn't change the fact that he was a big part of the start of the turnaround of the New York Islanders. When after Tavares was on the team, and they started to make the playoffs a little bit in 2015, and the following year was a down year. But regardless, he was definitely the start of the turnaround. And no, I don't think that the Islanders should probably reach out to him and try to get him as a depth guy, because we already have 45 of those. So
yeah, it would be nice, but I don't want to be in that position where you need to sign guys to a PTO at this point.
No. Yeah. But for now, he's going to Bejing, and he's going to play for Denmark. It looks like
super cool. Happy for that team.
The Olympics. Yeah, that's going to be real cool for them.
Before we move too far away from Islanders related stuff, I saw that Griffin Reinhardt signed in Belfast today, and we didn't put it in the show notes.
No, we did not.
And then people were very quick to say that the Barzal deal just looks even better.
Yeah,
and I feel so bad for him.
It's crazy because he was such a highly touted prospect. It wasn't just the Islanders who had him so high on their draft boards; just never could put it together. And it must be tough to watch his brother putting it together pretty well in this league. Playing in Belfast, and him not being able to cut it in this league.
Yeah, I feel I just, like I said, I feel bad. I don't, that fall from, it's one thing like Ratu where you kind of fall and you're still a pick and you can work your way back. It's another thing when you're the pick, you had your shot and it just, something didn't click or work or whatever the case was. that's heartbreaking. So I wish him all the luck. He's gonna have a good time over there. Gets to play professional hockey and do his thing. So as long as he still loves doing it, hope he enjoys it.
The Jack Eichel saga continues, and the other day, it was reported that I think it was Eric Engels. Jack Eichel's getting on a plane with his hockey sticks, and he's going to Montreal. And there's a whole fiasco going on in Montreal, which we'll talk about in a minute. But that had everybody up in arms with, "Oh, here we go." And honestly, I quote tweeted that, and I said, "LOL, here we go," because I knew that didn't mean he was going to the Montreal Canadiens. The BioSteel camp is out in Montreal, and there are tons of players there right now, including Connor McDavid. I think Jason Spetz is there, and Taylor Hall. But Jack Eichel's taking part in that. He's got to stay in shape. But that saga does continue. He has a new agent now. I believe it's Pat Brisson. I don't know if switching agents was going to do anything for to make this move faster. I guess maybe a new approach. He had some pretty good agents before. Their names are slipping my mind right now. But now it's Pat Brisson, and we know that he wants to get a certain surgery, which a 31 Thoughts podcast with Friedman and Jeff Marek had a great interview about the type of surgery he wanted to get. It's
with the surgeon.
Yes, with the surgeon. It's not something that's been done in the NHL before, and the consensus was
it's been done in hockey players, just not in the NHL and other major sports.
Yes,
professional
like
leagues.
MMA fighters have gotten this. I think NFL players have gotten this, but the NHL, nobody has gotten it in the NHL before yet. Hockey players have gotten it, and it's worked out well. And even you could argue that NFL is maybe a little more physical, or obviously the MMA is a little more physical, but it just sounded like the Buffalo Sabres didn't want to be the first team to try this out, especially when they don't know what could happen, and they're trying to essentially move this player. I don't think the Buffalo Sabres want Jack Eichel. I don't think Jack Eichel wants the Buffalo Sabres, and it's getting close. We're going to blink, and training camp's going to be here. And
he's already missing the start of the season, and that's only going to make this worse.
Yeah,
because now he's definitely out, regardless of which surgery.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. There was a ton of time apparently with this surgery for him to recoup and be able to play on the opening night.
Yes.
So, but now it's not looking like that's going to be the case.
Even if he just missed it, he would have been at least on the ice and getting close.
Right. So I don't know that any team right now is quote unquote in the mix, because I think everything is just at a standstill right now.
Yeah. And I'll say that there were billboards put up, free Jack billboards in Buffalo.
It was a Rangers podcast, right? I think
Rangers you're right. Podcast. Blue shirt banner.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Which sounds a lot like the folks who put up the Snow Must Go billboards.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Yeah. Thankfully, long ago. Yeah, that reminded me of that. I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Different situations, but similar. I see what you mean.
Well, just the whole, who did that before no one was buying billboards for, I don't like that was the first thing I always had to be on the forefront of it. I guess be that as it may.
Yeah.
I don't know that it affected any kind of change, but who cares?
Let's talk about possibly my favorite thing to happen in a long time, and this week. The Carolina Hurricanes offer sheet, Jesperi Kotkaniemi from the Montreal Canadiens, and the pettiness that went into this offer sheet was astounding. I thought that this offer sheet was a hilarious middle finger to Marc Bergevin. A $6.1 million deal for 1 year for Kotkaniemi, which he signed. The kicker is the $20 signing bonus. Did you happen to pick up on that?
I didn't. Okay. I know that his number was in there. There was something there's a whole bunch of smaller things.
Sebastian Aho's number is number 20, and 2 years ago they offer sheeted
Right.
Sebastian Aho. So now Kakaniemi signs a deal for that includes a $20 signing bonus, and that's just a big middle finger to Bergevin, because the statement Bergevin put out after they did sign Aho to the offer sheet, which the Canes obviously then later matched, was talking all about how Sebastian Aho wants to be here. He wants to be part of an organization that's moving forward, has a bright future, yada, yada. And Don Waddle, the GM of the Hurricanes, turned around and basically copied and pasted and maybe changed a few words and said the same thing about Kotkaniemi. Now, the interesting thing about this is that I don't think that the Montreal Canadiens are going to match.
I don't think they can.
I don't think they can.
Because it's not about this year. It's about
Right.
the QO next year, the qualifying offer.
Yeah, and so you're
that's
setting yourself up for a long-term $6.1 at least $1 million contract.
Yeah, and if it goes to arbitration, it just works out for the player.
Now, albeit he's a former top 3 pick in the draft, and maybe he hasn't been put in the best of situations in the in Montreal. He was a healthy scratch in the Cup final. So maybe he could pan out to be that, but right now, as it looks, he's not a $6.1 million player, and I think that's why the Canes did that on a 1-year deal, having already discussed with him too. Hey, your contract's not going to look like that after this year if you do sign it.
Yeah, and it would be one of the rare instances that the long-term deal AAV is significantly lower than on like the 1-year deal or something like that. But
it's a win-win for the Hurricanes because they need a center, and they could just get they did try to trade for him. That was the word. But when they didn't see anything that they liked, that's when the offer sheet came in. And
well, it just goes, these two GMs that are not in anybody's best graces at the moment for poor decisions. I guess it's good they're going at each other.
Yeah. How about the Hurricanes Twitter though? That was unreal. Did you see all that too?
Yeah, that they changed it to French. That very funny. I appreciate
reversal
that.
card. That was good.
Yeah, that's I'll say this, just as like a marketing communications person, in my day job. Every time I went on an interview over the last year, we talk about social media. Even now, in my current organization, I always say that sports organizations are at the forefront of what this is going to be. They're the ones having the most personality, that have that engagement, and they're the ones to look at. If you want to know what's coming up next, a lot of that, as far as organizational work, not your personal brand and stuff like that, but I think as like big entities, they're the ones to look at. I think they're really important, and stuff like that is just, you gotta have a personality. A lot of these teams, even like Chicago, Montreal, Carolina, their organizations seem to be making really bad to awful, heinous decisions. But their social media people, oh my God, they don't deserve the hate, but they deserve all the praise for doing the right stuff.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I wanted to ask you about the offer sheet situation, seeing what's going on between Montreal and Carolina and this new rivalry that's come about, do you think that I mean, the GMs already don't do it, but do you think that further scares GMs off from doing it in the future? Seeing the revenge offer sheet, is that like I'm not going to do that ever again, or ever if I haven't already?
I don't know. I mean, I think that team that Carolina is sitting around a table and was like, what can we use on our roster? It's like, well, we want this guy. Well, let's give it a shot. The worst thing is that either he doesn't sign or they match it and we don't have it.
Yeah.
We don't have a relationship with this team anyway. It's not going to make it that much worse. Who cares? If it's a player that a team wants and you think you have a good shot, it's happened before with pretty big name players, and it's often matched. This might be one of the times it's not.
Yeah.
This has a little bit of like the dagger goes a little deeper on this one. Social media doesn't help, but yeah, all the other stuff kind of on top of it makes they're not only is the dagger deeper, but they're twisting it a little bit too.
Yeah.
I don't know if it scares anybody. I think if it's the right player, you do it. I think it depends on who the other GM is.
Yeah,
I don't know that I would do it to Lou if I'm another team.
Or Yzerman.
Yzerman will just find a way to screw you.
Yeah.
I bet you there's some GMs that they're not screwing around. Like I think people are worried about a Barzell offer sheet at something like
I'm not worried.
any of their RFAs. That wasn't the case. And I think the players have the respect for the organization. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're Kotkaniemi, how do you say no? Like, I don't think take everything aside how he was treated and all that stuff. How do you say to pretty much guaranteed $6 million on a team that's trending upwards?
That's exactly what his agent said.
On the ice. Now, this is we kind of go back to that other conversation with like, so you're just gonna freely sign with this organization and you agree with it, so you're enabling it.
It's not about that.
Decisions.
It's about the money. It's
about the money. Yeah,
but
it's kind of has to be about both. But he can say whatever.
He's a young kid, and he's going to listen to what his agent tells him to do. His
right.
agent,
I mean, yes,
that in mind. So
right. So on the ice, anyway, not socially or anything, they're progressing, and yeah, it's going to be good for him.
Yeah,
it's not going to be bad for his career.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. How do you say no to $6 million, especially when you're probably not going to get that from the Canadians, and eventually when you're on the open market? Not to say that he's not worth that. We'll see how he does in this upcoming season. I think this is going to be his third, so he's, like I said, still young, has a long way to go. Maybe a change of scenery will make him that third overall pick that he was drafted to be. Maybe Montreal is just not the right fit for him. So we'll see what happens there. The Canadians have an upcoming contract that they'll have to sign for Nick Suzuki, who's a true number one center. So they need their money. And we'll see how this plays out. That about wraps it up today, John. What do you think?
I think so. I miss hockey.
Yeah. But
I miss hockey. We're missing USA, Canada, women's at the World Championships right now.
Yeah, you got a score on there right now?
I saw it was tied. Canada came back. USA was up 2-0. And Canada erased the bagel.
Oh boy.
And so I don't know what kind of firestorm is happening right now. I can't find it quick enough to do this. So you have to find out for yourselves, or by the time you're listening to this, you will already know. Be able to see the conclusion.
I want to say thank you to DraftKings and Manscaped. Use that THPN promo code with DraftKings and NHP20 with Manscaped, the Hockey Podcast Network, and the Hockey Writers. Of course, all of you, our listeners as well. Please rate, review, and subscribe to or wherever you watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and YouTube at Nassman Hockey, and follow our work at the Hockey Writers. And until next time, all, let's go Islanders.